All right, welcome. Bear with me. My voice is not the greatest, but I wanted to get on here and give you a news update. We're going to talk about Bitcoin first. I want to talk about BRICS Pay and their new system, as well as Mbridge. So let's get into it. It's good to see everybody. Just bear with me. All right. Let's start at the beginning. All right. So just looking at the current market, you have Bitcoin is down 1.57. Ethereum is down 4% to about 2,500. XRP down 5%. Rest of the market's kind of bleeding a little bit right now here. Let's just take a look at the biggest. Apecoin is still up 65%, $1.20. Radium is up 30%. Wow. Jupiter is up another 23%. Popcat up 20%. Helium, Solana is also up. DYDX is also up. A few other meme coins. Uniswap just up 1%, and the rest of the market in the top 100 is currently down. So biggest losers right now in the top 100, you have Bonk down. Ohm, which is a real world assets platform, and Aereo, as well as Tau, is down 8% too at $529. All right. So this is one of the better explanations of Bitcoin and money and governments printing that I've heard in a very long time. So I wanted to play this. It's about 2 minutes. Check this out.
The more you learn about money and government control of money, you realize that that is the whole game. Everything else flows from that. Every evil thing that government does is only because they control the money supply. Like, take an evil thing that government does, and I'll explain how it's because they control the money supply, you know? Like, I mean, just think about, like, okay, we fought, like, a catastrophic 20-year war in Afghanistan that literally killed hundreds of thousands of people, cost trillions of dollars, and thousands of our bravest young boys died, and then tens of thousands committed suicide in the wake of the war, right? Well, just like imagine if they couldn't print the money for that war. Right. Imagine if they had to tax the American people every month for the war in Afghanistan. You think that thing would have lasted 20 years?
No way.
You'd have been lucky to get it through a year before the people would have demanded a result. Like, what are you doing here? I mean, just imagine trying to do the lockdowns of 2020 if they couldn't just print trillions of dollars and pass them out. That people wouldn't have taken it. They would have been like, no, we're going back to work. We're not doing this. It's only because they control the money that they can get away with tyranny. And listen, like, personally, like when I came up as a child of the Ron Paul presidential campaigns. Like, that's how I got interested in all of this stuff. And Ron Paul would always talk about the gold standard at the time. And don't get me wrong, I think a gold standard would be much, much better than what we have right now. The problem is that historically, what do nations do when they're on a gold standard and they need to fight a war? They just suspend the gold standard, you know? So the difference is that what Bitcoin brings is this decentralization, where if you were truly on a Bitcoin standard, someone in Washington, D.C. couldn't just say, we're going off the Bitcoin standard now. That's the power that Bitcoin has, that you can actually have a chance at separating money in the state. And that is the most important thing in the world to do.
That was a really, really good breakdown of the current system and the problems with the current system that we currently have, and maybe a possible solution through Bitcoin. So Bitcoin Magazine put this out, $725 billion. Bernstein predicts Bitcoin will hit 200,000 in 2025. So that is actually pretty, higher number. Seen a lot of 150,000 predictions up to 200,000. I've seen 250,000 too. If we get anywhere close to this, it's going to be a really good bull market. So Bitcoin just broke a trend. It's been, I mean, take a look at this. This has been between May. So this is like probably June-ish. And so, it's been in this kind of, between, at a low point, it reached, 49,500, but it's been kind of ranging in this area, and it just broke. And so we'll have to see what happens over the next few days. If Bitcoin continues to break this trend, we might be heading for an all new time high for Bitcoin. Cup and handle cascade. Bitcoin poised to follow the structural path of the S&P 500, and gold eyeing 230K, as this person is saying. Once all three targets in the coming months, the HTF depression recession takes hold. So as you can see, here's the cup and handle for Bitcoin, gold, and the S&P. Man, it's going, hopefully things should start picking up after the elections. If you look at 2012, 2016, and 2020, usually the breakout happens right after the election because there's a lot of uncertainty around what's going to happen there. This is kind of a cringe thing. So China TV, if Bitcoin succeeds, we're all going to die. So, I guess depending, who you're talking to, what country you're in, you do have different viewpoints on if Bitcoin's going to succeed or not. 17 seconds. I just thought this was interesting to bring it from maybe what people are seeing in different places of the world.
Well, if Bitcoin will become the ultimate type of a form of the currency been adopted by human society, I can tell exactly what's going to happen as the worst scenario or the must scenario. We're all going to die. This
little dramatic, but all good. And then, so I just thought this was fun. When we do these chats, a lot of this is, serious about what's going to happen with the market. And sometimes I see clips that, make me laugh or smile. And so if I can brighten up your day with 17 seconds, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. So I just thought this was incredibly interesting. This person saying, if they're quitting their 9 to 5, if the bull market really takes off. And so check this out. Guys, they're running for the carpet. All right. Thought that was fun. So I shared this in Monday's news update. And I think it's important that we talk really briefly about this. And, there's been a lot of support around John Deaton. I've actually watched, and this, I'm when I'm not, looking at crypto and research and everything else, I'm watching different state races and Senate races from around the U.S. And this was just a really interesting one. So it's John Deaton versus Elizabeth Warren, Massachusetts Senate. And, there's been a lot of support around John Deaton. And if you watch the debate between the two, John Deaton really stands out to me as somebody I think we can get behind. And I think there's a lot of people that are tired with the status quo in Washington and what Senator Warren, brings and doesn't bring for the people of Massachusetts. And I just want to show him my support because I think we'd do pretty well personally in the Senate. And so the reason that ApeCoin has been doing so well, excuse me, is because they created their own meme coin platform. And I shared this on Monday, just bringing it up. I know there's a lot of people that either in my community or that watch this that trade meme coins. And usually, how to make money in memes, you catch a trend early. And so remember, most memes go to zero. A lot of memes are scams. 99% don't make it, but there's going to be a few things in here that are going to make people a lot of money. I will post this Twitter thread in the comments if you're interested in taking a look at it. What's up, Rod? Good to see you, man. Brandon Lee, adopted by human society. What a weird way to phrase it. Yeah, man. I don't know. China's got a huge problem right now. And, it's to do with their real estate sector. And they're facing deflation. And I was watching a video on this earlier. If you don't know, I think we've all kind of experienced inflation. Kind of really doesn't matter what country you're in. When we went through COVID, you experienced inflation, higher prices for goods because there's less goods in circulation. The supply chain was kind of broken. And, we all kind of suffered for that, right? When you're talking about deflation, this is kind of when things become a lot cheaper because people aren't buying stuff. Money becomes, it doesn't go as far, and there's more of the goods in certain supply. And when things get cheaper, sometimes people put off buying those goods because, they think maybe they'll get even cheaper than that. And then people, since goods are not being sold, people are being let go from different jobs, and then they don't have money to spend. And so that's what China is currently facing right now. And they're worried. They're doing just all these different rounds of stimulus, and 70% of people's, wealth is tied up in real estate in China. And if you haven't been paying attention to like Evergrande and all of these different companies in China that basically are now bankrupt because what they were doing. And so, I'm not a banker here in the US, but when, from what I understand this to be, is when you go get a loan, or you build a building and you sell units to people, usually you take that money and you pay your debts, and you finish the building, you do all these different things that you're supposed to do, right? And so what these companies like Evergrande were doing is they were taking the money that they would raise from a sale of a building that wasn't built yet, and they would take that money and then they would go buy more land and sell more units that weren't built yet. And so there's been, I think with like 200 to 300 different projects around China, people have stopped paying their mortgage. And that's not good, right? Banks are already under a ton of stress because of all of these different real estate projects that have basically flopped, right? And it's weird because in China, usually in US, when you get a mortgage or you buy something, you get a mortgage when that's built and delivered to you, and then you start paying on it. In China, people are paying for stuff that's not completed or built. And I can't imagine what those people must be going through for year after year of projects not being finished, and you're having to pay a mortgage. And so that's kind of the situation in China. I definitely, if you're wanting to find more information on that, a lot of videos on YouTube, but that's what they're currently experiencing. And so it'll be interesting to see how they come out of this, because it's a $9 trillion problem. $9 trillion problem. It's a big problem. Okay. So this was also earlier this week. MetaMask users can now access the XRP ledger. You can access your tokens, different accounts, trust lines with all just of a click, and NFTs too, which is a big deal. 30 million users can now use XRP through MetaMask. I also thought this was something big that I wanted to bring up too. Thune's Ripple payments partner, which uses XRP for cross-border transfers, announces a new service that enables banks to send payments directly to 3 billion mobile e-wallets worldwide. When you're talking about investing in a crypto asset, you look at what, usually there's a company, like Chainlink, Ripple, Stellar, that is working actively with partnerships to expand the technology reach of that digital asset, right? XRP is a decentralized crypto, but Ripple has built a bunch of technology that uses XRP in their technology. And you look at how many people globally can use the technology and what type of impact will that technology have on society. This, you don't see many crypto projects that have this type of reach. And that's why I talk about it so much. All right. So Brad Garlinghouse was asked about U.S. elections, and U.S. elections are 13, days away in the U.S. And personally, I think that the crypto market is going to pick up after the election. I think right now it's very close, and there's a lot of uncertainty what's going to happen after the election. So Brad Garlinghouse was actually asked this question on live TV, who he thinks will be better for the crypto market. And this is hard for a CEO of a a company that has billions of dollars underneath it, tons of partnerships. They're working with CBDCs. His answer can really kind of piss people off, or and so he has to be very careful with what he says. But it's worth a shot. Let me play this.
Your co-founder, Chris Larson, has given a lot of money to the Harris campaign. You had just told us a little bit ago that you are fiercely independent. And so when you think about the differences in the candidates and how they might approach crypto, what do you really know, particularly because the Harris campaign has been far more vague?
Well, I think there's one thing I feel very confident about, and that is the Biden administration's approach to regulation of the crypto industry. That is coming to an end for sure.
It's been
and
brutal.
I think no matter where this plays out at the presidential level, we'll have a more constructive engagement with this industry. It's a critical industry. It's an innovative technology. And I think the United States should be at the forefront and leading, as we did with the Internet of Information. I think we'll get there. As I said yesterday at the Philadelphia Federal Reserve, I think Gary Gensler's reign of terror on the crypto industry is going to come to an end very soon.
Brad, in your view, does it matter if Kamala Harris is president come January 20th or Donald Trump is president come January 20th? What's better for you? What's better for Ripple?
It's a hard question.
Well, I've taken a very neutral point of view. For the crypto industry, I think it's clear that the Republicans at a macro level have been more proactive in saying, this is an industry that needs clear regulation. You have seen a Republican-led bill in the House pass with 71 or 72 Democrats crossing the aisle to support that in a very bipartisan way. So I think we have seen a more Republican-centric but I also think you've seen indications that the Harris campaign wants to reset some of the very flawed approaches that the Biden administration has had with the crypto industry and other parts of technology. So what I'm optimistic about is we're going to see a change. We're going to see a reset. And I think we need that at the federal level. The United States, there's no question, the United States is behind other leading countries like the UK, like Switzerland, like Singapore, like Japan, that are way ahead in providing constructive and clear regulation and rules of the road for this industry.
It really doesn't get better than that as far as an answer, right? You don't really want to go too hard on one side, back the wrong horse, as they say in the business. That wasn't me typing, by the way, just so you know. It's difficult, right? Because you're the head of the company. No matter what your views are, you're going to piss off half the people that gave you that answer. And sometimes I express my political views and it pisses off people. So I'm not going to go there. But regardless of who wins, Gary Gensler will not be the head of the SEC. And I think that will be transformative. I hope it will be transformative. I don't think we can go another 4 years with regulation by enforcement in the U.S. I think if he were to stay, I think a lot of other companies would leave the U.S. and a lot of companies wouldn't, develop in the U.S. They would go offshores like they have been. So I think this is a pivotal time to have this conversation, and we need to be talking about this because, come January 5th, we really need new leadership at the SEC that will be crypto friendly. Obviously, you go after the bad guys. You go after, people that are scamming people and doing wrong, but you need to have a clear, message for the crypto industry, and it needs to be friendly if you want these companies to stay. So I'll move on. Node AI, where AI meets power. I wanted to just bring this up again. People are asking me, what is a good DePIN project that is building, real infrastructure that could go into the 100 millions, if not billions, one day. I think Node AI, also known as GPU, is the ticker, could be one of those companies. So pay attention.
Welcome to the future of cloud gaming, powered by Node AI. Experience ultra-low latency and high performance like never before. Whether you're diving into AAA titles or exploring the metaverse, Node AI has you covered. Why settle for less when you can stream and play faster, cheaper, and better? Join the gaming revolution with Node AI today. Welcome to the future of cloud.
And I will just show this to you because I know some people maybe are not as crypto savvy. So if you want to find this token, just go to CoinMarketCap and type in GPU. Here it is right here at 62 million. Just a refresher. And if you probably come to every chat, you've heard me say this, but I run a community called Cryptonaires. A lot of the community members come from there. We do pride ourselves in trying to be early and finding information earlier. This was one of those pieces of information that we found really, really early. A member had sent this to me. And before we kind of knew how big this was going to be, we had posted this at like 4 or 5 cents. And this thing went up to $2.67 in like the last, run in March. So I do think this could break all-time highs and maybe shatter all-time highs in this market once some liquidity and some certainty comes back in the market. So I will leave that with you. There are people in the crypto space right now that believe that the SEC has missed their date to file this appeal, and that the judge might consider to drop their appeal. But as of a few days ago, this is dated October 22nd. Today's the 23rd. So this was yesterday. This is acknowledgement of notice of appearance default notice. This is U.S. State Court of Appeals in the Second Circuit, Thurgood Marshall U.S. Courthouse is where this was taking place. And you have Deborah Ann Livingston, Chief Judge. Catherine O'Hagan Wolf is the clerk for that judge. And this is Securities Exchange Commission versus Ripple. So you know that this is what we are, in fact, talking about here. So pursuant to Second Circuit Local Rule 12.3, the Appeals Council acknowledgement and notice of appearance was due on October 18, 2024. The court has not received this acknowledgement and notice of appearance on behalf of the Appeals Council. If Appeals Council does not file an acknowledgement of the notice of appearance within 14 days of this notice here, of the date of this notice, when the appeal was placed on the calendar, Appeals Council will not be heard at an oral agreement. So it looks like the SEC now has 14 days to figure out what they're going to do here. I made a video earlier and I had brought this up. And my personal feeling is that, this is pushed by Gary Gensler at the end of the day, right? He's not happy. He lost XRP as not a security. That is not being appealed here. This is kind of going after Brad and Chris. And I think the guy's butthurt personally. But I don't think he's going to be there come January 5th when the new administration comes in. And maybe he's lost his will to fight this matter. We'll have to see how this plays out. I will keep you updated, but missing dates like this is a big deal. So we'll see how it rolls out. Hedera has this update. Prove AI will build its flagship AI governance platform exclusively on Hedera. Prove AI enables businesses to securely manage AI training data while ensuring compliance with evolving regulatory standards using Hedera's secure and scalable information. Prove AI is an immutable, tamper-proof database, brings a level of trust to risk management in AI systems, which aligns perfectly with our mission to provide a secure, scalable foundation for builders and enterprises like Charles S. Atkins, president of Hedera. So really good news happening out of Hedera, more partnerships being announced. So Celestia put this out, announcing results of Mammoth Mini, a test net averaging 27 I think it's megabytes, but it sounds really small, of permissionless data throughput in its first iteration. Mammoth Mini is the community's next level towards 1G or 1 gigabyte blocks. I am not a developer. It sounds interesting. Maybe somebody in the chat can let me know how big of a deal this currently is for Celestia. Okay. Tron, right? We've been talking about Tron now in chats in and out for the last few months. Tron has seen an enormous amount of people trading, tokens and projects and memes and all kinds of stuff. But did you know you can send transactions with near zero fees on Tron? And then here is the amount of energy on Tron DAO network has doubled in the past 3 months. Energy is required for executing smart contract transactions on Tron. More energy on the network means more capacity for smart contract activity. And in periods of high network demand, having more total energy available can help prevent cost spikes due to congestion. What I'm trying to put in front of you here is that, to double in the last 3 months means there's a lot of activity happening there. Okay. And so maybe this is an area of crypto. If you are looking to trade where a lot of people, like, you go in crypto, you go to where people are. Okay. Majority of the time, that's where the action is. That's where people are trading in and out of tokens. That's where people are launching new things. And Tron is a good example of maybe where you should be paying attention. All right. So let's talk about BRICS. This is kind of where I wanted to get to today. I've seen a lot of postings, a lot of things on Twitter about BRICS and BRICS Pay. Let's just talk about it. So, what proposals will Russia push at the BRICS summit? So this was October 16th. So I wanted to just talk about this part right here. So BRICS Cross-Border Payments Initiative, an alternative payment system in national BRICS currencies that would include a new messaging system and a network of national commercial banks linked to each other through BRICS central banks, removing the need to exchange local currencies through the US dollar. Okay, so what's going on here? So if you aren't familiar with what, world events, when Russia invaded Ukraine, US and allies put heavy sanctions on Russia. I think it was like 11,000 some odd sanctions on Russia, and kicked them out of the SWIFT system. SWIFT system is the current banking system that we use. It takes 3 to 5 days. It's 11,000 banks. And so Russia and other BRICS countries have been looking for a way to build a payment system outside of SWIFT. And that's what you basically have here with BRICS Pay. Okay. The system would be immune to external pressures and use blockchain technology to store transfer of digital tokens. So we know it's DLT based, backed by national currencies to make it more secure and reduce transaction costs. The aim is to keep trade flows between member countries running smoothly, even if one or more members are denied access to the international finance system. So that's basically right there, right? US dollar is still the main currency for most countries for trade. Now there are examples of I think it's Saudi Arabia selling oil to China in the digital yuan. They were using the US dollar for many decades, and they're looking and doing other currencies now. So this I can't tell you how many posts that we saw a year ago that this is the end of the US dollar as you know it, dollar hegemony, all this stuff, right? And if you were here a year ago when we were talking about this, I would have told you, like I'll tell you today, the US dollar isn't going anywhere anytime soon. Okay. The US dollar is more stable than a lot of other currencies around the globe. And until you have something that countries all around the world are going to use, you're basically going to be using dollars for the foreseeable future, right? Over the next few years, at least. And so moving the world to a new reserve currency outside of the US dollar is extremely complicated and difficult. And it's not going to happen overnight. I think you can see how complicated this is going to get as I go through these next few slides with you. But, I do think BRICS is onto something here. I think that the US basically puts pressure on all kinds of countries because they have the world reserve currency. And some of these countries are a little tired of it, or a lot tired of it. All right. And we're not going to get too much into the weeds on that, but that's kind of, now you're caught up. The reason why I'm bringing this up to you right now is this graph here. So take a look. Despite lower growth forecasts for 2024, BRICS nations still averaged 3.6 growth compared to 1% for the G7, while the G7's combined GDP is 15 trillion higher. BRICS could surpass them in economic size in the next 2 decades. So make sure you're understanding it's going to take some time here, but it is growing at an enormous rate. And that's due to, things happening in India. For the last, few years until COVID, China was extremely booming, and it was growing year on year. Now they have a little bit of an issue going on, and we talked about that earlier. I'm not going to get back into that, but let's just take a look at these. Take a look at these numbers. So here's the G7 up here. Let me just make this a little bit bigger in case my eyes are. Anyways, G7 is up here, and then BRICS is down here. So you see India now 6.8% growth. It's incredible. It's incredible to see that type of growth for India. China's 4.6, UAE's 3.5, Iran 3.3, Russia 3.2, Egypt 3%. I don't know if Russia's still at 3.2 with kind of all the stuff that's happening over the last 12 months to Russia. But anyways, BRICS are growing, and they're adding more countries all the time to BRICS. And it's going to be a powerhouse. It already is a powerhouse, but it's going to be an even bigger powerhouse over the next few years. Okay. And so that's why we're going to touch base on kind of what BRICS is doing here. So check this out. BRICS summit a new era of geopolitics. The BRICS nations have combined GDP over $60 trillion, surpassing the G7. Russia's finance minister stresses BRICS goal to bypass political Western platforms. Talked about that. SWIFT. The BRICS cross-border payments initiative is pushing for local currencies in trade. Talked about that. Geopolitical tensions could overshadow crucial discussions at the Kazan summit. So let me show you this. All right. So here is Wikipedia's example of what's going on here with BRICS Pay. BRICS Pay is a decentralized independent payment messaging mechanism system under development by BRICS member states. The system is similar to China's cross-border interbank payment system. I believe they're talking about Mbridge there, but let's just talk about this a little more. Europe's SWIFT and India's unified payments interface. Now, I've shown you some examples in previous chats of India's unified payments interface. Now, when they introduced this a few years back, it took some time for people to adopt it, but now this is the most used payment system in India. As far as I'm aware of the data that I pulled. If you live in India and you have other opinions, please let us know in the chat. The project is a joint venture between BRICS states to receive and make payments in their own local currencies. The venture was launched back in 2018 by the BRICS Business Council. The team that cooperatively runs BRICS Pay consists of financial, banking technology experts from 4 founding nations of BRICS, as well as South Africa. The purpose of BRICS Pay is to make international payments less costly and complicated, encouraging international cooperation between the growing crowd of BRICS members. All right. And so there's also something called BRICS DCMS. BRICS Pay will feature a decentralized cross-border messaging system called DCMS, introduced by the Center of St. Petersburg State University, which I believe is in Russia. Correct me if I'm wrong. DCMS operates without a central owner or hub. Participants can manage their own nodes, allegedly making the system resistant to external control or interference. So these central banks are going to run their own nodes, and I'm sure they're going to give access to banks that interact with the BRICS Pay system. All right. The system does not feature mandatory transaction fees, but allows participants to optionally charge one another. DCMS automatically builds transaction routes between participants, aiming to ensure reliable communication, even in a case that direct transmissions is unavailable. So that kind of sounds like offline payments, but it could be, it's hard to say exactly. The goal is to minimize settlement balances between counterparties. Messages will be encrypted and signed with multiple encryption mechanisms available. Participants can establish currency conversion rates and transaction limits. With recommended settings, DCMS claims to reach 20,000 messages per second, which is pretty intense. Let's see. How many Visa messages can be sent per second? let me just take a look here. I hate searching stuff on Brave. Just bear with me here. So this is saying about 24,000 transactions per second. So it is comparable to what Visa is currently doing. While on the other hand, not promising minimal hardware requirements, DCMS is also planned to be open source, also passing the piloting phase. So I hope that was a good kind of refresh of what BRICS is currently working on. Now, there was an example of the BRICS pay system that has been popped up online. And I just want to show this to you. I've shown this in videos, and bear with me. If you're seeing this a second or third time, this is the flow. So BRICS Pay has successfully tested the BRICS Business Forum. BRICS is the only real ready-to-use blockchain technology. And then they said XRP has already been integrated into the BRICS nations, which is accurate. You do have companies in China. You have in India. Russia has actually tested XRP many years ago. There's this document here from the Bank of Russia. It's called Digitizing the Payments and Implementation of Innovation in the Payments Market. And you can see it says Moscow 2024 right there. Okay. So in this document, there is this page. It's page 17. Okay. And this is the diagram of mechanism of cross-border money transfers in the Ripple system. And you have, which looks to be XRP right smack in the middle with a big X on it. And you have, which fair enough, it is the Ripple system, but X could mean other stuff too. But US dollar, euro, Japanese yen, Mexican peso, Philippine peso, Thai baht, right? A lot of countries that Ripple is currently working in. You have RLUSD available in the when MiCA goes live into effect at the end of the year. RLUSD will be one of the stable coins that can be used inside of the European Union, along with USDC. USDT is not there. So real quickly, the spread of distributed ledger networks on smart contracts has created conditions for the development of asset tokenization. The transfer of asset issuance processes the transactions with them in the digital environment. The asset is presented in the form of special token, usually issued in the circulation in the DLT network. Tokens can be issued for a wide range of assets, securities, inventories, real estate, right? Tokenization can help increase liquidity of an asset. And then it talks a little bit down here and will allow the use of new services for transactions with them, including smart contracts. Initially, asset tokenization was applied to securities and other financial instruments to increase the speed of settlements and reduce costs. Projects 37 in this area appeared black in 2015, yada, yada, yada. Okay. And so let me show you what they are describing. And then, this is just adding this October 3rd, 2024, that Ripple partners with Brazilian exchange Mercado. Bitcoin offers business focused payment solution. And so this is what the system. It's really fast. Look at that. Really fast. Now, there's also this, which is really, really cool. And so don't get mixed up here. These cards are actually different from the cards that you just saw. The cards you just saw actually have a QR code on them, and they could be in different currencies. Now, Ripple and ExoPay joined forces to revolutionize digital currency in India. India is another BRICS member that have chosen the XRP ledger to bridge CBDCs. So now let me show you this, okay? Because this is actually really unique, interesting, and I think this is kind of where plastic cards like debit cards, credit cards are heading with Bluetooth in them. Check this out.
users can pay each other in person with a simple scan of a QR code or remotely by sharing.
Sorry about that. Every screen I go to, I have to click the next tab. I do apologize. Let me back this up just a little bit so you can see what these look like. So, apologies. I had to go turn off my AC. It gets a mind of its own. So you have a thumbprint scanner here. Okay. You have like a toggle thing here that you can kind of select. There's a little screen here. And of course, there's the chip in it that you're going to be able to scan different places when you're checking out. And so I just backed it up a little bit. I do apologize for not switching over.
Payer and payee verify a random code to ensure a secure Bluetooth connection is established. The payee approves an expiration date for the payment, and the payer approves the transaction. Both payer and payee post these transactions when connected. Online mobile wallet users can pay each other in person with a simple scan of a QR code or remotely by sharing wallet addresses via SMS and email. ExtoPay is the result of 3 years of development by a world-class multidisciplinary team. ExtoPay is a disruptive digital payment system that provides universal access for consumers and merchants.
All right, before this goes off the screen, I just want to just show you this because it flashes pretty quickly here. So ExtoPay two-tier distribution model. So you have the central bank up top here. Treasury of the central bank produces digital coinage, as they're calling it. You have e-money, CBDCs, and then you have the reserves in here in the middle, right? And then you have e-tokens from regulated financial intermediaries on both sides here, financial institutions. And then down here is the retail applications, which, can go, they can issue different e-tokens. And then of course the agent app onboarding and recovery, Exto wallets where the money will be stored. And then you have P to M, person to merchants, P2P, which is person to person. And then M-commerce, which I believe is money commerce. All right.
Reducing merchant transaction fees to negligible levels. Based on a modified version of XRP's distributed ledger.
All right. So they're using interledger open loop, right? You just heard XRP can be used here. Accounts, KYC, bank APIs, right? On both sides. And then, person to person or person to merchant, right? So pretty cool system.
ExtoPay's backend is engineered to support permission DLT clusters, offline transactions, and an open-loop payment network. ExtoPay can interface with banking and payment systems via APIs to provide a novel e-money solution and act as a Tier 2 retail CBDC platform. An interledger layer enables an open-loop payment system, allowing wallet holders of one bank to transact with wallets issued by another. ExtoCard and mobile wallets provide universal access to consumers and merchants with or without smartphones or connectivity. Deviceless consumers can access their accounts via plastic QR code cards and their verified biometrics on the merchant or agent cards. To onboard a user, the agent scans their photo ID and live facial recognition is performed. Once due diligence has been completed, the customer trains their fingerprints on their card or, for deviceless access, on the agent's card, and they set up a backup PIN. The user's ID is signed with cryptographically verifiable credentials loaded on the consumer's wallet, and users have control over data shared with counterparties. Compliance personnel have approval, audit, and reporting capabilities. For recovery of lost wallets, users can go through.
You guys notice something here? I mean, if you're not from California, you're not going to notice it, but this is a California ID. I just find it interesting that they're using a California ID, for this. I know it because I'm from California. So I actually have a driver's license from California. It looks exactly like this, exact backend. I just thought this was interesting if in case you missed that.
Through a similar KYC process. unbanked users can cash in or cash out via connected agents or merchants.
All right, like that's this could be very well the future of how we interact with each other and send each other money, right? I thought this was a really cool system. Now, you also have Mbridge, okay? And I've seen a lot of people talking about this online. I feel like we're in the BRICS area. We need to also just talk about this really quickly. So, BIS Innovation Hub, of course, Project Mbridge update, experimenting with multi-CBDC platform for cross-border payments. Okay, what is Project Mbridge? Project Mbridge, excuse me, experiments with multi-CBDC common platform for wholesale cross-border. I've lost my voice is really bad. Sorry. Payments for focusing on the use case of international trade, which is the potential to connect central banks and commercial banks around the world as a public good. The platform developed for Project Mbridge is underpinned by custom-built distributed ledger technology as a set of comprehensive rulebook documents for fit-for-purpose government structure. So you have this kind of harmony thing, technology, legal, and governance, right? And around it says interoperability, do not harm compliance, etc. So the goals of this are tackle key point pains of cross-border payments, such as high cost, settlement risks, and low speed, advance cross-border settlement in central bank money, support the use of local currencies in cross-border transactions, create opportunity for new innovative payment products and services. Okay, and this talks about while safeguarding, each central bank is the exclusive issuer or redeemer of its own central bank digital currency. Only domestic commercial banks can request the issuance and redemption of a local CBDC. Central banks can set balance and transaction limits for their commercial banks. So, if you only want to have commercial banks send $1 million a day or whatever it is, they can set those limits. Each central bank has a full audit trail of transparency for its CBDCs. So really quickly, if you don't understand how all this works, is you have regular banks like and I'm going to go with US banks because I know them. I don't know banks around the world. So you got, Chase, Wells Fargo, you have all of these different, Bank of America, Bank of Hawaii, First Hawaiian Bank. You have these banks that are going to be connected, right? Each bank is going to have their own connection to a central bank usually, and the central bank usually processes most of these payments. All right. So this is how this is set up. Each central bank has a full audit trail and transparency of CBDC transactions, following the principles of compliance, do not harm, and interoperability. I don't really need to why experiment with Project Mbridge. I think we all kind of understand that. And take a look at this. So it says jurisdiction A, jurisdiction B, payer, payee, and then you have the payer's bank. You have the payer's bank, correspondent bank, payee's correspondent bank, payee. So this is kind of how it's set up, right? You have each side has their own, and then you have faster settlement within seconds, safer settled in the safest settlement asset, central bank money, more accessible with direct bilateral connectivity between two banks on the platform, cheaper, less settlement risk, fewer duplicated processes can lead to a reduction in overall costs. So if you don't know this, that 6% of international transactions end up failing, and this costs banks globally billions of dollars a year. Compliant, so with banks ensuring compliance with each other's KYC, AML, CFT. Now, something's interesting here, right? When you're dealing with central bank money and you're dealing with banks, KYC, AML, and CFT is counter-terrorist financing checks, right? What is baked in to when you sign up with Ripple to use any bit of their platform, all of this stuff is baked into it. So I just thought that was interesting. So if you personally are like, hey, I really like this crypto, they're talking with banks and central banks and all this stuff, and you can't find anywhere that KYC, AML, and CFT are baked into the platform, that's probably a red flag that you should be looking for, okay? Settle with finality based on legal or contractual arrangements and protections. So you have, of course, jurisdiction A, jurisdiction B, and Mbridge in the middle. Technology. At the heart of the experimental platform developed by Project Mbridge is purpose-developed permission DLT called Mbridge Ledger, or MBL, that supports instant peer-to-peer atomic cross-border payments and FX transactions using wholesale CBDCs. And they tested this very recently with like $12 million of real money. And I think I might have the video here. So let me get through this and then I'll see if I have it. MBL is an EVM compatible solution. Interesting. Referring to the ability of a blockchain to process transactions based on smart contract code that can run on widely used blockchain platforms. Furthermore, CBDC issuance, redemption, and payments are implemented through smart contracts written using the Solidity program language. The code is shared in open source among participating central banks. And then you have all of these different feel-good words around Mbridge. So here's something interesting. ISO 20022, right? We know that is the new messaging standard for the future, right? Ripple was on the ISO 20022 body, basically writing all these new rules, right? EVM compatible, interesting, right? Lay, we did talk about this a long time ago. I don't have all the key details in my head, so I'm not going to try to break that down for you. Encrypted payments, metadata, payload, pseudonyms, addresses, co-development, dashing consensus. MBL employs the dashing consensus algorithm, which is Byzantine fault tolerance, BFT consensus protocol that uses proof of partial confirmation of block validation to reduce the time needed to achieve consensus. So we're getting into the little thick of the weeds here. So it's of course API based, and it does talk a little bit down here of kind of how this is, supposed to be set up inside of the central bank, with node validators, of course, being at the key of all this. And then here's the front end of what this is looking like: API messaging, KMS database, right? And so, I mean, we've kind of gone through most of this already. Interoperability with participants' own systems and supported by APIs based on global ISO 20022 messaging standards for financial information to allow participants to easily connect and integrate with ISO 20022 compatible systems. For commercial banks, cross-border payments and FX transactions are conducted through interaction between their core banking systems and Mbridge backend. For central bank CBDC issuance and redemption, operations are supported by the integration of Mbridge into domestic payment systems such as real-time gross settlement systems and central bank digital currency. Through each central bank's Mbridge backend, API connectivity to domestic payment systems means that a domestic CBDC is not a precondition for joining Mbridge platform if adopted by central banks. Now, adoption is still something that we are far away from. And no, it doesn't give you an example of, what exactly the DLT system that is used. But I thought this was interesting. So the BIS Innovation Hub built this system with all of these partners. Okay. Now, what I found interesting is I can go through it with you. It's take another hour, but Hong Kong Monetary Authority, Ripple partnerships there. Central Bank of UAE, Ripple has partnerships there. Okay. Digital Currency Institute of People's Bank of China, right? I've found connections with Ripple inside of China. There's a lot of banks that are currently working with Ripple. And then the Bank of Thailand, right? Interesting to see all this, right? And then you have, of course, you have the World Bank, IMF, Saudi Central Bank, right? You can really kind of go and search each one of these and start digging. Reserve Bank of Australia, Bank Negara Malaysia, right? Banque de France. Just a lot of interesting central banks that participated in testing all this. Okay. Now, now that we just kind of went through all of this, MetaMan X, who we had as one of the speakers for the XRP Summit. If you missed that, go back and watch it. It was an hour and 45 minutes of pure XRP talk, tokenization, adoption. It was really incredible. But here is the video for Project Mbridge. Let me play this.
The global economy has become more integrated, but cross-border payments have struggled to keep pace. International payments are typically made through a global network of correspondent banks. While critical to enable cross-border payments, they have also introduced pain points and friction. Each correspondent bank in the chain requires time to process the payment, repeating similar checks at each step. This results in high transaction costs, slow payments, and opaque transactions to the end users. Additionally, correspondent banks are paring back their networks, leading to a form of country financial exclusion. This creates a situation where some countries no longer have first-tier access to the global financial system. The Bank for International Settlements Innovation Hub is exploring solutions for overcoming these limitations. The aim is to allow cross-border payments to be immediate, cheap, widely accessible, and settled in a secure medium. A possible solution would be a multiple central bank digital currency platform, or MCBDC. That is a technical platform that directly connects digital central bank money. Building on earlier CBDC prototypes, the BIS Innovation Hub and the 4 participating central banks joined forces to bring to life such a multi-CBDC platform named Mbridge, which stands for Multiple CBDC Bridge. By providing a shared platform on which participants can conduct peer-to-peer payments directly across jurisdictions using safe local central bank money, Mbridge can tackle the pain points of international payments, advance cross-border settlement in digital central bank money, and support diversification of currencies in cross-border transactions. Over the past year, the project team has moved Mbridge from a prototype to a pilot phase. From August 15th to September 23rd, a pilot focused on payments for international trade successfully took place on the Mbridge platform. This was the largest multi-CBDC pilot involving real-value cross-border transactions among commercial banks from 4 different jurisdictions. 4 central banks and 5 commercial banks from each jurisdiction, for a total of 24 participants, took part in the pilot, with the BIS Innovation Hub acting as a central coordinator. The pilot consisted of 3 basic transaction types. First, issuance and redemption of CBDC between central banks and their domestic commercial banks. Second, simple one-way cross-border payments between commercial banks. And third, cross-border atomic payment versus payment for foreign exchange between commercial banks. The pilot was conducted in 3 phases, with each phase seeing an addition of a new jurisdiction. A total of $12.1 million in all 4 CBDCs was issued onto the platform. This facilitated more than $22 million in cross-border payments and FX transactions made through over 160 transactions. The pilot demonstrated the platform's ability to transact real value payments in a real-world setting. It enabled peer-to-peer instant exchange of CBDCs to improve cross-border payment speed, efficiency, and reduce settlement risk, thereby confirming its potential. Equipped with the learnings from the pilot, the Mbridge project will continue towards a production-ready platform for cross-border payments.
Okay. Now, Smoky Dog or Smoky DQG puts out a lot of Ripple and XRP content. So if you want to follow him, please take a look at this or follow them on Twitter. So they posted this, which is why the role of Ripple's possible role in Project Mbridge becomes clear when you see the demo of Mbridge that incorporates MCBDCs in addition to the fact that Ripple's ODL can maintain liquidity pools for MCBDC's bridge. And so they posted
central bank, including access approval rights to.
So this is kind of what the system looks like. I know it's not huge. I do apologize. I can't really blow this up any more than it is. So scroll in on, if you're watching on YouTube or something, you can scroll in with your finger and make this a little bit bigger.
Onboard selected domestic commercial banks and the ability to set transaction limits and parameters, such as the maximum amount they can hold in their wallet or transact in a single cross-border payment. Central banks.
So just really quickly, so you have the ECNY, EHKD, eTaiBot, and then AED, which I believe is the currency in the UAE.
Can also set alerts for foreign exchange rates.
All right. And then they have this here too. So this is another document where they pulled this out of. And so who will maintain liquidity pools? So there's two solutions here. One is financial institutions chosen by SWIFT, Bank of International Settlements, shall fund liquidity pools with currencies required for the exchange. In return, these financial institutions can charge a transaction amount to the bank. For example, the MCBDC experiment with the Banque de France was charged 10 basis points by the liquidity pool on the amount that it can be transferred. And then B is the second way is to maintain liquidity pool is by bringing in the MCBDC bridge on Ripple's on-demand liquidity platform. Excuse me. And then they also posted a few other things here. Once central bank digital currency systems are implemented in certain countries, it would be very much possible to integrate them for exchanging payments messages through arrangements like MCBDC or interlinking, right? And then another thing they wanted to highlight is just possibly with a special unit of account and native asset representing it. So I believe what they're hinting at here is maybe something like XRP obviously being involved. And so I just wanted to show you this really quickly. And now this is just me kind of searching the background the video is playing. But, if you take a look, Ripple has been in these places for quite a long time, working with these governments for quite a long time. This was 2 years ago, and Ripple just got some licenses inside of the UAE to use XRP as well. You do have Bank of Thailand, right? Siam Commercial Bank Partnership. The Bank of Thailand's largest private bank, Siam Commercial Bank, has partnered with Ripple since 2020. And it talks about some other examples here too. Existing partnership with Bank of America, pilot CBDC project, all kinds of things, right? You also have Fubon Bank, Ripple to use HK CBDC in real estate tokenization pilot. We remember this when we talked about it last year. And then you have, of course, the People's Bank of China has engaged in discussions and research with Ripple, a fintech company on blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies. And then, recent developments in 2023, Ripple hosted a delegation of Chinese officials from the central bank and other government agencies, including the director of Central Bank Digital Currency Research Institute. The meeting marked a continuation of collaboration between the People's Bank of China and Ripple, right? So when you kind of dig down here, this is what makes me kind of, really excited to hold XRP as I keep learning about it. What do you guys think of that deep dive? I have another video I want to play for you too, but I hope that helps you better understand what's being piloted right now by different countries around the world for the future use of central bank money. Stellar XLM and Ripple's XRP will make ripples in the fabric of our economy. Man, I couldn't agree with you more. Well said. Beautifully said. What else we got here? Mr. Moon's dropping some knowledge on people in the chat. I appreciate you, Mr. Moon. Maro B, not sure what you're trying to say there, but thank you for being here. Meet. Yes, it is a California ID, right? Accenture, also a Ripple partner, huge Ripple partner. Appreciate you dropping that. Mbridge by Accenture and Ripple. Yep. Thank you for including that, Mr. Moon. Really appreciate you, bro. Two galaxies colliding, creating a stellar of ripples. Well said. Where did the name Ripple and Stellar come from? That sounds like a drinking question. I believe the name Ripple came from when you're you're spending XRP, that it creates, like, I think it's to do with ripples and the amount of currency, but exactly where it came from, I have to get back to you on that. Maybe Mr. Moon knows exactly where it comes from, because if I say something and it was this, it was that, I don't want to get into that. But I have one more video that I want to show you here, and it looks like you guys like this content. There's 194 of you watching on Twitter and YouTube. Just wanted to touch base here. I do run a community called Cryptonaires. Right now, we do have a 50% off to the end of the year if you want to come in and see what that community is about. There's a link down in the description of every video to do that. We hope to see you around the community. So Digital Perspectives also put this out, which I thought was a good clip of videos in one video. Digital Perspectives channel is run by Brad Kimes. He was definitely in XRP and research before I even got into crypto years ago. He's got a great channel on Twitter as well as YouTube. Go check him out if you want to do that. So he put, I believe we're getting closer, BIS called neutral bridge currency, the Mbridge model. The concerns are what happens if non-state currency rises to the challenge of the role of USD. XRP is a bridge currency. It complements, not replaces, the current system. So check this clip out.
Monetary policy in a country, or as it is the case in Eurozone.
Really quickly, there's a little lag in the video. It is not your video. Just full transparency there. Don't try to fix it. It's literally the recording of this video.
Within the Eurozone is defined by the central bank, the Fed, the European Central Bank. And this monetary policy applies to the territory, the jurisdiction. How could central bank digital currency cross borders and go into another jurisdiction? Would that create a risk of currency substitution? So everybody says, I want ECB's CBDC. I want the euro. And these are unresolved issues, but it doesn't mean they cannot be resolved. This is why from the fund we are advocating to think about this world of digital money as a global public good. And in a recent discussion in Zurich, where we both were, what we advocated for is to have a public platform. So when protocols are agreed, this public platform can connect different CBDCs. There can be interoperability, the same way you would transfer euros from one country to another. You do it using CBDCs.
Where XRP could come into play potentially is when you're looking at cross-border CBDCs. So when you have a digital dollar and you have a digital, real, or digital pound, you obviously need to have some way to interact cross-border. Yeah. So I think the BIS call this a multi-CBDC model. One of the ideas is you use a sort of a neutral bridge currency to go from one to the other, similar to the model I explained earlier, with our on-demand liquidity. But the core offering really is not XRP. There's no XRP involved. It's the native token is the CBDC.
The potential.
Really quickly, if you build a CBDC, right, and the value of that CBDC lives on, let's say, the XRP ledger, or lives XLM, whatever it is, right? The value that is digitized and brought onto that ledger will increase the overall value of the token. Remember, the token is a distraction. It's about what the protocol does, right? Can't remember the guy that said that, but this was like 10 years ago or something like that, right? Goofy white guy, he's kind of tall, gray hair, Glenn Hutchins. Oh, see, I just had I just had to play it out of my head. Glenn Hutchins said that, right? And anyways, getting back to that. So the value that is built on, so if you took a CBDC, currently this is to give you an example, there's $21 trillion in money, right? That has been, like paper money or money that's been created in the US, 21 trillion. If you digitized and brought that $20 trillion, obviously it would be very slow from the start. But if you brought that onto any ledger, the value of that token, regardless of how many tokens there are, right, would go up because that value then lives on that system.
Fast and wide adoption of a global stablecoin, potentially a global currency governed only by the incentives of a private company, is something that will deserve and will receive the highest level of regulatory expectations.
Okay, so hold on. This is probably a clip that you really need to listen to. I had to listen to this 2 or 3 times. So Jerome Powell is the head of the Fed in the US. Okay. He's talking about a private company like Ripple, or it could be USDC or whatever, right? Like, listen very closely to what he's saying here. Okay. Here we go.
The potentially fast and wide adoption of a global stablecoin, potentially a global currency governed only by the incentives of a private company, is something that will deserve and will receive the highest level of regulatory expectations.
Okay. In the US, what is the only digital asset, right, that has gone through all of the scrutiny basically that he's talking about there in the court system? XRP. What is coming, in the next week or whatever, or what is currently being created in the background? RLUSD, right? That is going to be able to be used, right, in the US as well as Europe, as well as all over the world. Like, when he talks about this, I'm thinking Ripple, the company. USDT, even though it has $100 billion or $115 billion, that is not going to be approved on the world stage by governments, right? That is a business that is in the Bahamas that has a bunch of shade behind it. That's my personal feeling. Do some research on USDT. You be the judge, but let's keep going.
And is regulation where it needs to be on global stablecoins yet? It's not, but we're making progress.
I think there are also concerns about what does it mean, again, from a geopolitical perspective, if should another currency arise as the world's reserve currency, or if there's a non-state currency, so to speak, that becomes a world's reserve. That's another thing that I think people are very concerned about.
Okay, so a non-state world reserve currency. What currency in crypto right now, because that's what they're talking about here, right? Or something like that, is she's basically describing XRP, right? Like when I hear that, I think of XRP. I know these clips happen pretty quickly, but I'll just play this one back really quickly just so you can hear exactly what she's talking about. But listen and try to think what she's talking about here.
Progress.
I think there are also concerns about what does it mean, again, from a geopolitical perspective, if should another currency arise as the world's reserve currency, or if there's a non-state currency, so to speak, that becomes a world's reserve. That's another thing that I think people are very concerned about.
So non-state is not backed by a government, right? Like the euro or the dollar or the yen, right? It'd be from, either, it'd be something like you could, I'm not even going to say what it came into my mind, but you get the picture.
Looking forward, rapid changes are taking place in the global monetary system that may affect the international role of the dollar in the future. Forward, rapid changes are taking place in the global monetary system that may affect the international role of the dollar in the future. Most major economies already have or are in the process of developing instant 24/7 payments. Our own FedNow service will be coming online in 2023. And in light of the tremendous growth in crypto assets and stablecoins, we are examining whether a U.S. central bank digital currency would improve upon what is an already safe and efficient domestic payment system. As our white paper on this topic notes, a U.S. CBDC could also potentially help maintain the dollar's international standing.
So his feeling is like, hey, we just created the FedNow system that XRP can actually be used inside of that system. Why, and a bunch of other currencies, don't get me wrong. Why create a central bank digital currency in the US when they just created this instant payment system? So that's my case for BRICS currency, as well as Mbridge, and the role that XRP could play inside of these systems. I hope that you learned something. We broke 200 people. I love you guys. Awesome. See, she's the IMF chair. Yes. So what he's talking, Mr. Moon's talking about, is this lady right here, Kristina Georgieva, who is currently the head of the IMF. Okay. Now, I think you all know who this person is, right? I always spell this wrong, so bear with me. Christine Lagarde. She used to be the head of the International Monetary Fund. Where she sits now is she's the head of the European Central Bank. So I've played clips on my channel before of her mentioning Ripple and Stellar by name. I have not found other clips of her talking about another company. There's actually a few different clips of her talking about Ripple, the company. So, you know, it all comes down to the people that are in power and what those people feel comfortable with using or testing, what relationships those people have with, let's say, a company like Ripple or a company like Stellar. You know, they're not going to go out and use Dogecoin, right? They're not like Elon Musk, where he bought a bunch of Dogecoin for his kid, then he talks it up. So, you know, I don't know. All I know is that if you have to have a wider thought and you know, a longer view on these digital assets. You can't just buy something one day and assume it's a meme coin where maybe it'll go to $1 billion market cap overnight. Maybe it'll go to nothing tomorrow, right? You have to, like, it's buying something like XRP or XLM. You have to really put the time in to research what you're holding. And you have to understand that the world moves extremely slow. It's not there to please you. It's there to do what those people in power want, like Jerome Powell, like Christine Lagarde. And we are all but along for the ride. All you can do is research. You have all of these tools that you didn't have 20 years ago. You have YouTube, right? You have Twitter. I don't use Facebook, but people use Facebook. Cool. These are all tools that you can use to better your education on what you're currently holding. If you're not taking the time to do that, okay, you don't understand what you're really holding. Right? All right. I got about 10 minutes. Anything else that you guys want to talk about here in the comments? I'll sit around and answer some questions. See, I get passionate. My voice comes back a little bit. Accenture and Ripple. Yes, I believe. Where was it? I think, yeah, here, right here. So when we watch the Mbridge video, you have Accenture right here. Project supported by Accenture. And if you don't know what Accenture is, let me show you this. So this is Accenture's website. They have hundreds of employees. You know, they're more of like a technology company, but they are in payments. Global recognition and awards, right? Let me see. Accenture reports fourth quarter and full fiscal year 2024 results. Let me see if I can get an exact description of Accenture for you. That way I don't tell you something that's inaccurate. Accenture PLC is a global multinational professional services company originating in the United States and headquartered in Dubai, Ireland, and specializes in information technology, IT. Okay. So they played a part in Mbridge, and Ripple is an Accenture partner. I don't know if they're partnered with Stellar. I'm not showing you this. I do apologize. That's what I was trying to show you. Not using XRP BRICS So we did have a long conversation about BRICS Pay. I would have you fast forward the video and watch it. Okay. Which are you more bullish on, XRP or Stellar, for equal or both? No, I make much more content on XRP. I'm not saying that it's not as important as Stellar. I just, when you're investing in anything, right, you look at who's running those businesses, right? You have people with an extremely high caliber and respect level. Jed McCaleb is a developer first, and he's a business owner second, right? And so, he was there originally to create the XRP ledger. Arthur Bretto, David Schwartz, Jed McCaleb had some differences in what was going on with Ripple, the company. He left and he built Stellar with similar technology, right? So, if I had to put my money on a horse, it would be XRP over the next decade. It's all connected. Yeah, you don't need to use XRP. Like we made that very clear here, right? Value could be created with CBDCs, and if the value, if that value lives on the XRP ledger, XRP is more expensive. That's how this works, ladies and gentlemen. If you added tomorrow $100 trillion of debt to the XRP ledger, does the price of XRP go up? If you can't answer that question, you need to do some more research. FedNow will be a crazy when UBI takes over the jobs. Break that down a little bit more for me, Jennifer. Universal basic income, is that what you're talking about when UBI takes over jobs? So there's going to be millions of people that are going to be displaced by AI, and that will need to be retrained. Now, some of those people, whether it's their age or their mental fortitude, are not going to want to get retrained. Some of those people are going to fall back on government assistance. Story of any government that is supporting their people. You're going to have that. And I think the way that any government could push people into, so this is a whole nother conversation. I don't know if I want to go down this rabbit hole, but the best way to push people into like a new system is to give them money, right? Give them or offer them money. Here, use this new system, right? I don't want to use it. It's tracking my movements. It's tracking this. It's tracking that. Oh, we're going to give you $2,000 a month in this new digital currency. Go use it. Now, there is a lot of FUD, and there's a lot of stuff talking about digital currencies. They're going to track all your things. Okay, so you're telling me that a government agency can't go into your bank account right now and kind of see what you're spending money on? Okay, sure, whatever. Transactions can be private, they can be public, right? So if you're using a CBD system, no company anywhere is going to use a public ledger where all of their payments and customer payments are public. They're going to need to use a private ledger, like a government is going to want to use a private ledger, right? You don't want to be seeing where the government's sending money. They're going to use a private ledger. So I can't imagine that your payments that are going into your bank account are going to be public information. That would be so they're going to use a private ledger. Now, universal basic income, we've talked about this like 2 years ago. It's definitely coming. And how people are pushed into that system, they're going to throw money at them. Plain and simple. So I think Jed leaving Ripple is just a show. They probably work together behind the scenes. Now, I would imagine that Jed McCaleb is very professional. I'm sure Ripple didn't appreciate how much XRP he was selling for all that time, right? But I'd imagine that I'd imagine that they can collaborate behind the scenes. They probably won't make a public showing of it, though. I'd agree. did you guys like this breakdown of the BRICS payment and Mbridge and all that stuff? I hope you learned something today. We kind of got into the weeds a little bit. BTC is a big shiny coin that all of us that are looking at. Don't pay attention to what's going on over there. Well said. I think institutions are very focused on Bitcoin, and because of that, retail is now becoming focused on it. When we do the chat on Friday, I saw something really interesting. Something I was looking at earlier, where it's talking about how institutions kind of sell into retail, right? And they're going to do the exact same thing. Institutions will buy up the price of XRP. It'll break all-time highs. And here comes retail, and institutions are going to dump on retail. That's just how it's going to happen. XRP went down today. Yes, this is like we've been talking about that for the last hour and 30 minutes here. You can't just have it's down today, it's up tomorrow view. This is something that you need to research yourself. This is something you need to get educated on yourself, and you need to have a longer viewpoint, because adoption doesn't just happen because you want it to. You need global regulation for all of this stuff to really work, right? You need to be able to move this value from government to government across borders, and you need that. So until you have something like that, you are still in a speculation market, okay? Don't let anybody tell you differently. You are not in a utility bull market. I repeat, you're not in a utility bull market. You are in a speculation market where people are going to speculate on the value of these assets. Until you reach that mass adoption curve where central banks are actually using the technology, right? Value is being tokenized on a large scale, and you have regulation, it's all going to be speculation. Yeah, Crypto Geology, go back. We've been streaming for about an hour and 28 minutes. I've been talking about BRICS, Mbridge, and XRP probably for the last like 50 minutes. Go back and listen. I think if people in the chat can tell you that there was some value here that we talked about today. I broke it all down for you, bit by bit, partnership by partnership. It's all there. RLUSD now launched in the UAE. Sick. I haven't seen that yet, but sick. Yeah, man. Ripple's coming for, right? They're here to make a dent in the universe, right? They're not here to, make a couple of partnerships, transfer a few $1 billion. They're really here to move. Will there be global regulation? Yes. So you're going to have BRICS countries, G7 countries. All these countries are moving. Some of these countries have regulation, right? MiCA, right, for the European Union comes into effect at the end of the year. Japan, Australia, Canada's working on regulation. I don't know if that's fully in effect yet. UAE. I mean, there's a lot of countries that take crypto very seriously. And until the US does, there's going to be some partners. So a lot of countries that do trade with the US wait for the US to create policy, and then those countries will adopt certain policy because they want to be able to move money or goods or whatever it is, services, seamlessly across borders. Do you like XCC? Absolutely. XCC is a great asset, but this conversation was more geared towards central bank digital currency and Ripple and XRP. So XCC for TradeFi, man, I was in XCC in, when did XCC launch, man? I unfortunately didn't buy enough XCC when it was like 0.00000. But I was buying like XCC back when it was like in this area. If I would have known obviously what I know now, I would have put way more money into XCC. I did sell a lot of XCC when XCC had some all-time highs, took some really nice profit. XCC is a great asset. Oh, I'm not showing you what I want to show you. I'm sorry. I do apologize here. Here, this is what I want to show you. This is where I was buying XDC. I was selling XCC kind of in this area. And I still hold some XTC, but it's not nearly as much as I would have liked. Story of my life. Any other comments, questions? We'll go for a few more minutes if anyone has anything. Thoughts on MiCA regulation and Tether? Currently, the way it stands, Tether cannot be used inside of, as far as I understand this. Now, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Moon, but with MiCA coming into effect, Tether is not an approved stablecoin for the European Union. Now, that could change, but that's how I understand it. For Twin Claim, are you just leaving it and claiming it and keeping it in your wallet? Yeah. Yes. I'm not selling Twin Protocol at these prices. Like, listen, guys, the election is going to happen in the US in 2 weeks. If you look at 2012, 2016, 2020 cycles, Bitcoin takes off usually right after the election because there's so much uncertainty, right? You have half the population of the US that is for one candidate, and you have half the population that's for the other candidate. You have so much uncertainty right now, right? Regardless of what happens, you're going to have uncertainty. Now, once you're on the other side of that uncertainty and people know what's going to happen, you're going to have things take off. That's my personal opinion. I could be totally wrong, but I'm just using data from the past 3 cycles that I've looked at that bring me to that conclusion. By the way, RLUSD will be USA's stablecoin. I love your name, Robert. Great name. My name too. And I agree with you. They're not going to use Tether. I mean, USDC is a good option too, but when it comes to regulatory approval, USDC has a lot of money licenses, e-money licenses. Ripple has a lot of those too. So, it'll be a good competition, but at the end of the day, I like what Ripple is doing as a company, and I think they're gonna do great things. I think they're going to change how we use money, digital money, tokenized assets, and how we interact with each other every day. I think Ripple is like an Apple or a Microsoft of crypto, right? That's my personal feeling. As AXL Axlar? Zen, is that Axlar? Senator Bill Hagerty, 22 October, is long overdue for Congress to pass legislation that gives clarity to stablecoins. There's a lot of really incredible people on both sides of the aisle that are now crypto friendly, that I think if these people they get into Congress, they get into the Senate, they will really help reshape the way that the US is addressing crypto. Yeah, I think XLR is a great company. I haven't done maybe all the research that I've done on, let's say, XRP. So I really am not the right person to ask what's going to happen with XLR. Just trying to be frank with you. As my dad would say. Man, I'm sounding like my dad now. When do you think utility will kick in? I mean, it's already kicking in for the stablecoin, right? RLUSD. I think it's just a matter of time to see how big that's going to get. Personally, I think you're going to see like how you have USDT against currency pairs on exchanges and USDC. I think you're going to have Ripple stablecoin against currency pairs on exchanges, right? Because it is Ethereum compatible. Why not? Quant probably more Microsoft of crypto. Well said. Well said. I mean, there is a Microsoft and there is an Apple, right? So there are multiple choices to that. But Quant, technology-wise, you're right. They are at the top of working with institutions, central banks. It's great technology. I'm surprised Quant is where it's at. Like Quant, it just kind of shocks me, right? Because you have Quant. Like, how does this make sense? Quant is at $62, $757 million market cap, and you have Bitcoin at 66,000 with a $1.3 trillion market cap. Doesn't make sense to me. But we're not in a utility market yet, are we? So people are speculating on Bitcoin's price. They're speculating on Ethereum's price. Like I don't own any Ethereum. I'm not planning to buy any Ethereum, but I will keep buying XRP, XTC, some XLM, maybe. Quant's a good asset as well. Quant is at $62. Yep. It's tough, man. It's tough. Like once we reach a utility market, that's when you guys should really load up on the utility tokens, right? Over the next 12 months, we're all going to be speculating on meme coins, on real world assets, on AI, on gaming, but that's not going to be their true value, right? It's just going to be what we think their value is worth. That's what speculation is. Siraj says XCC is a big no. Fair enough. Here comes Velo. I think Velo's a good choice too, man. I like Velo. When you take a wider lens, it's hard to miss all the X coin collaboration. You're right. That's what we're doing here is we're trying to help educate people that might not be as good at researching or connecting dots. That's why I built this channel, to have a conversation. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Did you load up on Quant? I wouldn't say I've loaded up on Quant. No, man. No. I have some Quant, but it's not like it's not like I have $1 million in Quant or even $100,000 in Quant. Not even close. Major news for XRP, such a small move. So once again, we are speculating all of this news. Like if when you have a market cap of $30 billion, it takes a lot of money to move that market cap even 50%, right? If you have a 30 billion market cap and you want to make a 50% move, you need $15 billion in market cap to come in. It's not something that moves very quickly, right? I think we sometimes miss that point. Any knowledge on Umoja? I've never heard of it, KM. Notice that they were at the Philadelphia Federal Reserve FinTech meeting. Cool. Umoja. Do they have a token? They price not tracked. Let me see. Umoja. All right, here. Let's just put this back up. I can talk for another few minutes. Umoja. We all are going to make it protocol next generation liquidity staking tokens pegged to Bitcoin, Solana, and Ethereum. I mean, cool, but I don't think that protocol will have as much impact as, let's say, an XRP and or XLM. That's just my opinion. I could be totally wrong. I don't know enough about it. XDC promoters are corrupt. Hey, man, I think there's a lot of people in crypto that get paid to say a lot of things, right? It's just the way of the world, right? TikTok influencers get paid to sell you shit. Crypto influencers get paid to do reviews or put something in front of you, right? It's how life works. You know, that's why you trust certain people and you don't trust others, right? It's life. So does Lobster on Soul. Is that like Lobster Wallet? No, that's on XLM, right? Maybe something different. Good to see you, Jason. Moja Loop. Yep. Anchor Network is good. Yeah, someone brought that up earlier. You're not paid, you're an investor. Oh, I'm just giving an example, Sraj. I know you're not a paid influencer for XCC because you probably wouldn't be bashing it if you were, right? It's all good though. I mean, people buy stuff at the wrong time. You know, sometimes their friend says, this is going to go up, right? And then you get FOMO and then you go buy something and then it goes down and then you hate it. I've been there. I've been there a lot. So I get it. I get it. Is that the flag is so small? Hold on, let me see. Oh, I am not good with flags. Is that, I'm just not going to name a bunch of countries. Where are you watching from, Wenaxi? What country is that? Is that Russia? No, it can't be. See, I said I wasn't going to say something and I did. Let me know what country it is. I'd love to know. You guys like it when we just kind of sit here and talk different projects? Quant has October 7th article on how institutions have a risk using decentralized blockchain, and Quant is a solution. Quant is really good. Philippines. Could be Philippines, Cam. That was my first guess, but like I just didn't want to say it. Some people get pissed off when you say the wrong country. Shouldn't have said Russia. Is there any news on Ripple meeting with the Fed on BRICS on the same day? If there is, Ken, I haven't seen it. If I see anything, I will make a video and try to get it out right away. What about Casper and Hedera? I was kind of upset with Casper and the lack of, I don't know. I don't like the CEO of Casper. I think they're, the partnership to tokenize, what was it? It was tokenizing people's inventions. There's another word for it that I'm just blanking on. I think that could be promising. Philippines. Well, thank you for joining us from the Philippines. Marcus Pierre from Asia. Good to see you, Marcus. I think Hedera, great technology, a lot of partnerships, right? Casper, like this, I have to, the technology has to be good, and I kind of have to have some type of connection or like the I think the CEO is kind of a, I just don't like him. Prove AI. Yeah, we talked about that earlier with Hedera and Prove AI. We talked about that earlier on the chat. So if you're just like joining us, the first like 40 minutes is crypto news from around the space. And then like the last 50 minutes of the chat was about BRICS Pay, Mbridge, and a lot of XRP stuff. So if you haven't checked it out, rewind when we're done and take a look. Have you seen Pyth? I've heard of it. I'm not invested in it. HBAR. I hope it makes waves this run. It's hard, right? Because you have, and this could be said for any token, right? But like, I feel that some of the tokens that were around last bull market that pumped really hard, I think a lot of people expect those tokens to pump harder in this bull market. And what happens just with anybody is, you can only be so interested in something for so long. Like, I've been a huge fan of Ripple and XRP for years, but when it comes to like other assets, I am not as interested as I am with Ripple and XRP, just because of all the incredible technology and the future of a tokenized, CBDC future. I'm very interested in that. So I can stay actively engaged with that. But I think a lot of people disconnect from the community or from news, and they move on to what's hot, where their friends are, right? And I don't know, man. You might have some of these tokens like ADA or Matic. This is just an example. We don't really know what's going to happen with them, but, would you say ADA's community is stronger than it was in 2021? Or would you say it's maybe some people have moved on to other stuff? I'll let you kind of dive into that one, but I don't know. I think you might have more speculation on newer tokens like AI, gaming, right? Off the grid. One of the biggest games in the world right now, right? A lot of people don't realize it's a crypto game. And why is it a crypto game? Because it's better code for video games. And now that you have a breakthrough game like that, you're going to see other titles and other companies in the crypto space making games that are reshape the way that, first-person shooters are played around the world, right? So, take that with what you will. I hope that helps you better understand my thought process, and I hope you learned something from that. DPIN has multiple projects. Yeah. So guys, the top narratives in crypto right now, if you don't know this, are AI, DePIN, gaming, real world assets. Okay, I would say maybe in that order. So those are the 4 areas that I'm focused on paying attention to. Also meme coins, but like, you know, I can't tell you how many meme coins I've invested in and lost a lot of money, and maybe a few of them I made a lot of money. And so like, it's exhausting to keep up with all of that and just constant scams. It's exhausting. Ripple, World Asset Custody and Settlement, trifecta. Well said, Cam. All right, Strauss. Good to know about Pyth. AI is going to explode. AI is going to explode. We're all here to speculate. AI is going to explode. Man, we're flowing good here. I have to go pick up my wife to take her to the doctor. So come on Friday, I will put a good 30 or 45 minutes on the chat on Friday to just flow with you, answer questions, talk story about any project that you guys want. Bring your questions. We're going to kick it off at 11:30 Honolulu, which is 5:30 Eastern on Friday. Come here. I'd love to see all of you again. Is SHX? We'll save that for Friday. Listen, it's an honor to be here with you. I hope you learned something. If you have, please like, share, and follow. I love you all. See you guys later. I'll see you on Friday.